a critic needed to ask or check on. And it was, what was the artist trying to do? What was he or she successful in doing it? And then was it worth doing? I thought those were kind of pretty astute questions that you could point to pretty much any sort of work of art, whether it's visual art or performing arts, and sort of determine what was going on. And I think that it's really important as professionals that we be able to critique not only the work that we see, but the work that we do as well, right? Too often times, and I think that this is becoming kind of pandemic, is you'll see at the end of a show, the curtain will go down, the lights will go down, the lights will come up, the actors are standing there, and everybody stands up. Now, there was a time in my lifetime that standing ovations were earned, and not everybody stood up all the time. You only stood up if you felt that there was this what you saw was so moving and so powerful that there was nothing else to do but rise to your feet and applaud and cheer. And it's not that sitting down was rude or that you didn't like the show, but it came out of an emotional experience, right? And now it just sort of seems to be that's what everybody does, right? So not that I'm discouraging people from getting standing ovations, but I want us to be a little more discerning in what we watch and in what we participate in, so we have a better idea. Is it worth that? Not that it was bad, but is it worthy of my giving everything that I have, which is making this very physical acknowledgement and standing and addressing the crowd. So we have three guests here today. We have a couple of our Atlanta critics, and then we also have my boss and artistic director here at the theater, Tom Key, and Jim Farmer and Andrew Alexander. And we have some questions, much like the previous session we did at the kickoff, that I'm gonna ask them, and then I'm gonna turn them over to you guys to ask them questions if you have anything that you want to know about what makes theater good and what makes it not good, right? Okay, any questions so far? Pretty self-explanatory. All right, gentlemen, if you could come up and have a seat here on our stage.
Are you all okay with sitting on this
okay?
mesh here? Because I could bring these chairs down. Might be a little more comfortable.
Oh, no, you want to do that?
Yeah. Let's bring these down.
I didn't want to risk the wrath of the...
I know. I will take the responsibility.
Okay.
Very, very careful.
There we go. There we are.
That's better.
There we go.
Thank you.
So,
And,
have a seat.
and I want. Hey, Elisa, can you come down too?
I can for just a minute.
Oh, okay. This is our director for the guys, Elisa Carlson.
Hi, guys.
And
These are our teen ambassadors.
Hey, Teen Ambassadors.
yeah.
Hello.
We're doing a talk back with you after the show. That's wonderful.
Yes. Yes, we are.
The actors are really looking forward to it.
Good.
I'm actually meeting my folks for dinner and coming to the show.
And
tonight.
you are.
So.
Oh, you're Hannah Rose.
She's Hannah Rose.
Of course you are.
Hannah.
Of course you are. Henry and
It's just that
Caitlin.
she's now grown up and not.
Yes. Now I feel badly that you don't have a.
Oh, no, I'm not staying. I really just
Okay.
came to say hi. I poked my head in. And my folks are coming to the show tonight and I'm taking them to dinner.
Super.
You got your book?
I did. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I thought that was a really neat chapter on
Yeah.
optimists.
That's great.
So, you guys have fun. I'll see
Thank
you
you.
after the show.
I'm going to
Bye.
sit over here and I'm going to
Okay.
sit about with these guys.
If I may, I just wanted to give, I want to say a special thanks to Jim Farmer and to Andrew Alexander for coming.
Yes.
And just a moment on who you all are. Wait a minute, did I meet you?
Oh, Maya she just walked in.
I did.
You did.
She
You
just
didn't
arrived.
just appear.
No.
And it's Maya. Maya, glad to see you. And these teen ambassadors, this is the first year we are launching this new educational initiative that Mark is heading up. This year, the way we're doing it is we're offering a free subscription to each show that we're doing this year. What they have to do is come and attend on the same night together. They experience 4 of these workshops beforehand. and aspects of the theater, and then they have to write a review of the productions that they see, and so that it can be published on our blog, 84 Lucky Street, and also reported in their school communities. And so it should be a very rigorous way of embracing and learning about and immersion in the theatrical art form through theatrical outfit. And what I think is great is how this could build through the years. And if 5 years from now, if we had 50 teen ambassadors and you all are staying in touch in your network and you're helping us to know what forms of theater you can be a part of with us in creating in the summer as we are doing our regular theater season, it's kind of amazing how this could build, you know. So all that being said, hey, come on down on these first 2 rows. We're glad you're here. And with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Mark. But could you review those 3 things that Goethe said?
Sure. What was the artist trying to do? Was he or she successful in doing it? And was it worth doing?
Okay, thanks.
So, gentlemen,
Hey, good to see you.
good to see you too. Would you introduce yourselves to these guys, please?
Sure.
If you would?
I'm Andrew Alexander. I'm an independent arts journalist. I work in Atlanta. I do a lot of theater reviews, but I'm kind of all over the place in terms of the types of things I review. I review movies and visual arts and dance and a little of everything. So a little for everyone as well. You know, I work for Creative Living and Atlanta Journal and Arts ATL and a few other websites around town.
Cool. Thanks. Jim?
My name is Jim Farmer. I started writing, I guess, most of what I do is theater. I started writing theater in college, which was several decades ago. So I write now mostly for Georgia Voice and Arts ATL, predominantly theater commentary as well.
Great. Cool. Well, thank you. And
I'm Tom Key. I'm the executive artistic director, and I am not a professional critic like these gentlemen. However, I did earn a master's degree in theater arts from the University of Tennessee, and one of my goals in attending a master's program was to get a sense of where I was on the historical story of the theater and the human experience, and to try my hand at directing, and also to get a sense of dramatic theory. And I am, partly for practical reasons, because I'm not going to be able to be here for Harabelle. I'm going to be at the Arena Stage in Washington, D.C. performing in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner this Christmas. And so I'm real excited about this Teen Ambassador program, and I thought I would take part in this panel tonight because although I'm not writing for the public, what I am constantly having to do is to discern what plays to choose, how to analyze scripts or productions, and to take that infusion. And so I'm constantly reading theater criticism and assessing how to choose. The greatest responsibility that I have is deciding what is it that our theater can do that no other theater is doing to make a contribution in the industry and the community and to the art form. And then what plays and artists are the best to choose to implement that. So that's the perspective that I will be. I'm speaking from a perspective of applied theater criticism, of how I choose what to produce,
Well,
and how we evaluate our work. Come on down.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, that's
that's
all right.
okay. And
We're
I
glad
think it's
you-
important though too to get a viewpoint from the other side of the footlights too. I think that's just valuable for us as well.
Okay.
So let's just jump right in, okay? I gave you 5 questions that we had a chance to kind of look over. The first of which was list at least 3 points that you think make a successful production. I'll start with you, Jim.
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question.
It is a very loaded question.
That's a loaded question. You know, for me, I think the first thing is, did it emotionally engage me? Did I really care about the people up there? Did I really care about what was going on? Was there a conflict that I saw that was resolved, or just was it worth my time, as you said? Because these days, there's so much theater, there's so much film, there's so much going on, there's so many options. If I spend 3 hours at the theater, I want to be moved. I want to feel something.
Want to be worth it.
I want to be worth it. So, was it something that took chances? Did I, you know, I really don't like shows where I go and I know exactly what's going to happen. I can predict dialogue. I want to see some risk, some people taking chances. I always admire people who take chances. Maybe a curveball thrown. That's just something I like a lot when I see chances. And you also mentioned this, a real clear vision of what the playwright, what the actors, the team are trying to do and where they're trying to go. I just like seeing somebody who really knows what he or she wants to do and accomplishes that. Just a clear vision.
All right, cool.
Those are 3. I can
That's-
list 33, but
May I ask you something about that? Is it fair to say, am I understanding you correctly, if a theater has taken chances, is it fair to say that you would feel surprised?
not every show is geared to take chances. I mean, obviously there's some shows that start here and go here, which are fine. I just personally, I love it when I, you know, when I like seeing a show going somewhere that I didn't think it would, or you know, or maybe, you know, an acting, a bit of casting that I didn't expect. So somebody
Right.
taking a bit of, you know, some chances.
Right.
That's what I mean by that.
Right.
So
yeah.
risk in
Risk.
choices that are made.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Choice.
Because it might be, you might be seeing Romeo and Juliet, we pretty much know how
Which
it's going to
everybody
end.
knows, but something a little unique, maybe a different slant.
Okay.
That's what I meant by that.
That you were not expecting.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's cool.
That opens the play or a moment in a new way for you.
That's great. That's
Cool.
great.
How about you, Andrew?
Let's see, 3 things. I would guess first might be kind of the obvious thing, and I would call that kind of good building blocks. So you would say the things that make a good show, you know, good acting, good directing, a good script, good scenery, good costumes. Those are the building blocks that go in. Next, I might say something you might call good faith. The people doing it have to believe in the project. They have to think of it as something important. They have to believe that what they're doing matters and stuff.
Okay.
And that has an effect on.
So there's like commitment as far
Right,
as the
and
commitment.
it's not as always easily visible. It's not like you walk in the theater and say, "Oh, she didn't believe it" or something. But when people are doing a show and they don't believe in it and stuff, it has a cumulative effect
Sure,
that sometimes
absolutely.
you can't see. And you know, and the last thing I would say, a good audience and stuff. I'd say theater is kind of unique in that it's not like a movie where it's The Wizard of Oz. Every time you put that movie on, it's going to be the exact same show. Judy Garland gives the same performance, or
Right.
Bolger or whatever gives the same performance. It's always going to be the exact same. But where with theater, they're performing obviously for an audience, and the expectations an audience brings, the intelligence and things like that matters. I mean, you could have the Royal Shakespeare Company, and if they perform to a bunch of people that weren't into it and checking their cell phones, it's not going to be a good show, because you don't have that exchange that, is what makes really great theater.
That's interesting because I remember years ago in an interview, someone asked Jerry Seinfeld, what do you do when you have a bad audience? And he goes, there's no such thing as a bad audience. He goes, it's something that I did in some way. Either I went in with the wrong expectation of them, or I brought something from outside in, or I was just checked out, I didn't pay attention. And it's very interesting in my years as an actor and trying to apply that kind of theory, I don't know that I always believe that to
Yeah,
be true.
I don't know if I
because
believe it
there are
either.
times that literally
Bad audience.
that audience sucked. I don't know what they were doing. And I think days of the week have a tendency to do that too. I think Friday audiences have a tendency to be better than Saturday night audiences. And I think it's because it's the end of the week and Friday is the end of the workday, and they're ready to party and let go and have a good time. And Saturday they've had a whole day to relax, and now they're like, oh yeah, entertain me, So I don't know. I think that's interesting. Okay. How about you, Tom?
All
What are
right.
your three things?
The first thing I would say is that I can watch a character about whom I care profoundly make some kind of change. There's some kind of movement. There's some kind of journey that character takes, and I care very much about that change. Sometimes I will experience a play that has a great beginning and middle, but it just stops. It doesn't have an ending that lifts to more than the sum total of its parts.
Is it like a catharsis?
Right,
Like
exactly.
that?
Exactly. There's a kind of status. There might be interesting dialogue and plot, but the whole of it doesn't, no one really was in a different place at the end of the play than they were at the beginning. So that sense of change, of what Aristotle would call action, the movement of the human spirit from one place to the next, that's really important to me and draws me into it, makes me care. The second thing I would say is recognizing human beings on stage that are as complex and as the people with whom I meet and encounter and am with on a daily basis, because there's nothing more mysterious and incredible than human beings, and to see them represented in their complexity on stage is very rich to me. And the third thing would be in terms of the language, the dialogue, that at some point it lifts to metaphor, it lifts to the kind of heightened language that is that stays with me. That stays with me. I think art is always entertaining, but entertainment is not necessarily art. And I think the difference is the residual effect.
Okay.
And the kind of language that stays with me. We often hear people talk about, I want to leave a musical humming, the songs.
Right.
But I think about the theater in a way that there should be a line or a metaphor or an image where I know why this play was called The Glass Menagerie, or there's a coming together in the language of that for me can illuminate a reality, so that stays with me, and I will reflect on that long after I've seen the play.
That reminds me, I saw a production of Marisol by Jose Rivera at the Public Theater, and it had gotten sort of mixed reviews, and we saw it, and there were 3 or 4 of us that went to see it, and we all kind of, I like this, and we said, we were standing outside the theater for a good half an hour, 40 minutes, and they said, there's a coffee house, let's go sit down. We ended up staying there, and it was, of course, New York. We were there until 2 o'clock in the morning, talking about this play and what we liked and what we didn't and what worked and what didn't work. And we realized that's a great play. Whether we agreed with everything or not, the fact that it engaged us for so long, and we kept calling each other all during the week and thinking about things, I said, that makes a great play, because it stuck with me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good. How about let's go the other direction now. So what are 3 things that you think list 3 things that make up an unsuccessful production? Why don't you start this time?
Okay.
We'll go this way. We'll go the other direction.
I'm going to sort of turn the corner on all those 3 points, and that is, first of all, if I believe that no one is changed in the play, that basically the situation at the end in terms of where the protagonist is basically where it started. And I'm thinking of that statement, that very complex, mysterious statement that Faulkner made in his Nobel acceptance speech about how art is somehow about capturing life, so that if you touch it 100 years from now, it still moves because it's life. In other words, life is movement. Physicists tell us that there's no such thing as drilling down to finding particles. There's this little mini particle that makes up the substance of existence, that evidently the deeper down we go, it's relationships, it's moving, it's this moving energy. And so I think the theatrical art form is a great art form for revealing that movement of the. So if it's static, that is that makes for a very long evening of theater. And I've seen 10-minute plays where nothing happens and it feels like 10 hours. And I've seen 4-hour plays that feel like 30 minutes because of that fact.
August Osage County feels like about 20 minutes.
Exactly. I really think that this whole question of, oh, that play's too long, or to say to a cast, you need to speed it up. I think that those kind of things are just really big mistakes.
Yeah.
The second thing is that recognizing that there are forms from farce to August Osage County, very realistic, and realizing that not every genre, whether it's a farce or a drama, has the responsibility to create these characters in all of their complexity. But I still want plausible characters that I recognize every single one as, yes, I know someone like this, and I recognize that quality in myself. So it's not, I want to be careful about, in other words, I'm not a snob of drama over comedy or comedy over drama, but I am really impatient when a playwright or a director or an actor has turned in an inadequate portrayal of a human being. One thing in doing multiple characters in a play that's fascinating is that you can pick one element, and it might just be a physical tick or a pattern of speech that will be like the tip of an iceberg, so that I know that that whole foundation of the iceberg is underneath. I might not need to be introduced to the entire character, but the play I'm directing at the end of the season, Dividing the Estate, there's an incredible character in this 13-character play that doesn't come on until the very last scene, and it's just delicious because and when I played the gentleman caller, the delicious thing about that role is that you've heard about him all through the first act. So it's not the quantity that the playwright's responsible for giving everyone all of the marks that they need, but in what is revealed, it has to be authentic and represent a full human person. And lastly, if the language doesn't lift to metaphor, if it's just reporting, if it's just, I've seen some theater that to me, I think would have been more successful as a documentary.
Oh, sure.
In other words, not every story is best told in a play. It might be better told in a song or a poem or a documentary or a 3-hour feature film, or now this cornucopia that we have of incredibly rich cable television. You know, I'm on my first season of Breaking Bad.
Nice. Oh, are you in for a treat?
So that's what I
Talk
would
about
say.
metaphor.
Yeah. So if nothing changes if the characters are not fully dimensional and if the language is flat and does not achieve dramatic literature, whether it's a farce or a drama. That's what's unsatisfying.
Okay, cool. You guys, if you have any questions during the course of this, please feel free to ask them. You're more than welcome to. It's not, just don't have to sit here and be passive, so you're more than welcome to address anything that anybody says. Okay, what are your three? Oh, yes, you have one. Excellent, fantastic.
You had talked about just theater as, and like just what you think of theater as like art and stuff. I know Jerzy Kurtowski says that the theater as an art is between like it can just be one actor and one audience member. Like, do you think like that's all theater as an art needs to be, is just that connection between the actor and the audience member?
I do think that all that's, and I don't know if it was Grotowski who said this, but all that's needed for theater is the actor and the audience. And
Well, Peter Brook says that all that's necessary is for one person to walk across an empty space for theater to happen. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay. So we're talking bad theater.
Okay,
What is bad theater?
All right.
We hope that's
part.
good
That's my
stuff.
job.
We hope that's good stuff. So what's bad?
I think I would follow kind of a similar path that Tom did, and like just turning my three good things 360. I think I started with
The building
good
blocks.
building blocks. You have bad building blocks, and I love what you said about with a good building block. It's like the tip of an iceberg. If someone's wearing a costume, it's a good costume. It seems like that costume has a life maybe outside. You know what I mean? It has a past and
Has some reveals something.
Right, and same thing with a set. You see the set, and you know it's a set, but you can easily imagine there's a world back there and a world beyond it. And likewise with the things the characters say. If somebody says something, it has a meaning, it has one meaning, but you also know there's other things going on. I guess with the bad building blocks, obviously it would be kind of the opposite, where it's just kind of, oh, she got that sweater from the Gap. It doesn't look like it's the 1930s at all. Yeah, and that set is so ugly, I don't want to look at it anymore.
Right.
That type of thing. And I guess, I said the second thing, good faith, bad faith, like I said, just people who, changing light is the problem. If people don't believe in the play, if people aren't committed to the project and stuff like that, I guess a lot of times that would show up as kind of bad building blocks. It's kind of a similar parallel thing. And the last thing, what did I say? Oh, bad audiences.
Audience.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Okay.
I'm sort of flipping some of mine too.
That's okay.
I guess, I've seen some shows in my life that, I've seen one time, and 20 years later I can remember dialogue or scenes. But if I see a show and I drive home 45 minutes later and I remember nothing about it, then no, it left no impression. I want a show to do something, to move me, make me mad. Create some songs I can sing for the rest of my life. I just want a show to engage me. And if it doesn't, The second one is sort of what you said. I don't want to feel like the people on stage are just punching the clock. I want them to sell it. I want them to be passionate. I want to feel like it's they're the characters in it, and it's about this moment in their time. I just want to feel that they're in it. They're really passionate and you believe in what they're doing. The third thing is I hate shows. I saw a show a couple of weekends ago, and I had no idea what the playwright was doing. I had no idea what he thought about the characters, because it seemed like it was going here, and by the end, he had killed off his main character, and I had no idea why. I felt like there was no vision in that show or out. I had no idea what he was trying to tell me or what he even felt about the people in the show. So just no vision at all.
Right.
So
Well,
those are my three.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I felt like it was a comedy, and then an hour later, she was dead. I was like, what happened? I don't
What's
get it.
funny about that? Okay, well, cool. Well, let's move on. And I thought this was kind of interesting. I found this quote, and I like her as a writer, Karen D'Souza, out in the Bay Area. She's a critic out there. And I love what she says, that she believes the role of the critic is in part to champion the arts, which I think is kind of a really interesting thing, because so many times, and I think that this may be true for us as artists on this on that side of the footlights, a lot of times we get very defensive about critics and we think, well, they're just here to tear us apart and make us look bad. And I
Just in case you wondered.
oh, okay, well, maybe I was right then.
We all text each other afterwards. Let's tear them apart. I can be meaner than you are.
But I think that there's an enormous amount of truth in that, and especially just listening what you think makes good theater and what makes bad theater. You want it to be good. I can't imagine that you go to the theater wanting it to be bad and really looking forward to tearing something apart. That you want to be able to go, send your audience, send your readers to something specific, that you found something special. So I love that moment. But what I wanted to know is what you believe the primary role or responsibility of the theater critic to be. And let's start here in the middle. We'll just switch it up a little.
I really liked her thought about being a champion of the arts, though. I think the word champion, I think that, I don't know, somehow I picture like Muhammad Ali or something like that. It's just not that heroic, or, you know, like Caesar coming home from Gaul or something like that. I'm just going to a show. I would say maybe advocate for the arts,
Okay.
advocate for the arts and stuff.
Okay.
So, and I would just also add, in terms of both championing and advocating for the arts, just opening myself up to all the broad meanings of what that might carry with it. Because when you hear a championing of the arts, you think, oh, well, I'm supposed to go to every show and love it. But actually, you know, if I go to a show that's not quite there, or you know, isn't good for one reason or other, and then I go write a review saying it's the most wonderful thing ever, and everyone did such a great job, and then people read the review and say, oh, awesome, I'm going to go see that, and then they get to the show, and it's not so good. I haven't done anyone a service. I haven't done the actors a service. I haven't done the theater a service. I haven't done myself a service because people don't trust me anymore. People don't trust the theater anymore. That's kind of damaging to the arts. So there are certain points where you are an advocate or a champion for the arts, where you are actually kind of taking apart the art and not saying such.
So would you say
Positive
that you're
things.
more like, it sounds almost like a politician or a diplomat or ambassador, if you will, the sort of that you have to use discernment to figure out.
Possibly,
What
I would
works
say
and
more
what
like a what would you call it? Like a glamorized consumer watchdog.
Oh, okay, sure. Consumer reports.
Yeah,
You're
there you
the
go.
arts, the consumer reports for the arts, and giving people the.
Because people do only have so much money to spend on the theater, you know, and
Sure.
then you know, it's like, okay, I have $20 to spend on the theater this month. Should I spend it on this one or this one? And this one's terrible, and that one's just the most fabulous thing. You want to be able to say, you know. That
So
one.
it's like an investor, like a Wall Street broker kind
There
of
you go.
person. This is where you need to put your money. Okay, cool. How about you, Tom? What do you think is the role?
Something I really believe in is that it just doesn't work to try to. I believe in attracting people to what's good and valuable, and not trying to persuade them or guilt them into it, or make. I can't make people feel like they should go to the theater or care about the theater, but I can attract, and I think that I think energy evokes energy, and one reason I really respect Jim and Andrew and the other critics in our community is that I think that their love for the art form is contagious. And that's why they're dedicating this time, you know, to the craft, and that's infectious. If I hear people talking at a table nearby in a restaurant and they're excited about something, I want to know what that is. So maybe, you know, like if we see a crowd starting to gather, that's kind of interesting. I don't want to miss out. So I think it's a matter of saying, this is it. This is what I'm talking about. This thrills me, and this is why, so that other people might say, well, I want to be thrilled, so they come too. And it's equally important to say, this is not it. This is not, and I really agree with what you're saying, because I think good work will survive and endure a bad bad reviews. But what's really harmful is for bad work to get good reviews. Because like you said, that really confuses the audience, and it gives them, see, this is, I've always said that this was a boring, art form, and I'm never going to give this a chance again, So that's what I think. It's really, really important. And gosh, the choices we have. So I think that this role that the theater critic plays is very, very important for us.
Is it a tastemakers? Or do you consider yourselves tastemakers? Like you're trying to develop the
It'd be a nice thing to be able to
the
do.
cultural
I
tastes
don't
of
think
your
I could do
audiences
that or
and-
would want to get into that. I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay. All
But I
right.
love what you said about conveying enthusiasm, to always make it look like fun, even discussing what aspects of a show you didn't like. That can be fun too. You go to dinner and say, oh, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, to make the conversation look fun and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something, a mental activity that's enjoyable. And,
Yeah. Nice.
I think the most powerful attraction that a theater critic can bring to the theatrical art form, is that if the critic understands these aesthetic principles which have succeeded in this particular work. That's very different and much more powerful to me in a sustainable way than just someone expressing his or her own personal opinion. And that's why I would say I don't think a critic is a tastemaker. In other words, it's not someone that has captured the public imagination, and this is just a personal taste, and so a lot of people mimic that. That can have a certain influence, but I think that the more sustainable kind of criticism is recognizing the success of the artistic craft and identifying for that in people in a compelling way.
Okay. Cool. How about you? What do you think down there at that end?
On this end. Well, the people who do what we do have to love it, because God knows there's no money. I don't know about you.
That's not
I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love doing it and I'm passionate about it. But and for me, there's nothing quite like that feeling when you're going to see a show you know very little about, and it's just wonderful, and you just really want to call people. And it's good to be able to convey that passion in a review and have people say, I would have never seen this show. I would have never known about this show unless you would have reviewed it. I love that feeling. I love that feeling.
Yes.
The flip side, though, is that, I don't think a critic is supposed to be a cheerleader. And some theater companies expect you to come on opening night with pom-poms and to love it regardless.
Right.
And that can be tough, because as a critic, you're supposed to really give each show a chance.
Well,
we
there's not a
can't
lot of
like
room for
everything.
pom-poms either.
Small. It can be tough though, because you want to like everything. You really do. That's
Sure.
The law of averages is that suck it out.
Does that mean that theaters commission you to write a review about their show?
No, my editors.
Okay.
And then if I see something I really want to see, I'll pitch my editor. But theaters obviously know us both, and they'll contact us and say, "Hey, can you come review a show? We're opening." So they'll stay in touch with us.
That's a very good question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Maya.
Fine. This is for all of you. Does it ever become difficult for you to look at whatever it is that you're criticizing objectively, as opposed to, your own personal likes and dislikes of just theater in general? I wonder if, if it's like a mixture of both, or if as a critic it becomes difficult to look at something, just objectively, as opposed to, whatever you personally feel.
Can I jump in? I'm sure you've been reviewing shows for a long time, and I'm sure you've seen shows for a long time. And obviously, there are shows that I love, that I would love any version of. And then there are shows that I've seen 2 or 3 times and I've hated every time. So if I hear that so-and-so is doing a production of the show that I'm going to hate, then I'm just not going to do it because it's not really fair to me in the theater. If my editor asks, I'll just say, that's not my favorite show. Can so-and-so review it, or maybe just another time. But I just, it's hard for me to go in with enthusiasm if I know that fundamentally I don't like the show I'm reviewing.
Well, I think it's kind of, like a lot of things, it's striking a balance. I mean, sort of the things you like and the things you don't like, that's you. I mean, that is kind of like, it's like your fingerprint. And how could you not bring that to a review? So your response to something. But what you want to be careful of is when kind of sort of your fingerprint is actually kind of a bias or something. Like say, I hate one-man shows, or just, hate them or something. I don't, but I'm just saying something along those lines. And you go see a one-man show and you're responsible for reviewing it. I think if you went in and sort of went in the door sort of acknowledging to yourself, I hate one-man shows, but I can sit down and watch this and determine if this is a good one-man show or a bad one-man show. So as long as you can, as long as you have a bias, if you can push it aside, if you can recognize it as bias, push it aside.
Okay. That reminds me, I remember a critic that I was quite familiar with when I was in Nashville, and this is many years ago, who hated direct address. In other words, actors talking directly to the audience. So if there ever was a play, and a lot of plays, nowadays especially, and of course if you're doing Shakespeare or something, you turn around and you talk right to the audience. That's what's written. And he would write 3 or 4 paragraphs about how much he hated direct address and what this was all about. And I finally called him and I said, why do you just make it? It's like this soapbox. Can you not overlook it? He goes, no, I can't. I can't overlook it. That's what they asked me to do, and that's what I hate. And again, it's that idea of bringing. He kept bringing this sort of fingerprint to every play. That I remember there were times that it actually would become a conversation in rehearsals. Well, do we really want to challenge this guy that we're going to do this here like this? And that's sad when it starts affecting you even before the show is put up, that you're thinking in that terms.
I'd like to just bring up 2 things in what Jim and Andrew have said. I've actually written reviewers to thank them for a bad review because it was, I don't like that, and it's not pleasurable, but it helps me to know, I had a feeling, and you're right, and this is, it's helpful. And another way of looking at that is that good criticism can help me think, you're right, that helps. Next time out, I would have taken that into account. Because we're all working for the same goal. And the problem of how to engage an audience has been engaging a lot of people for, millennia. And so this dialogue between us is really important. And the other thing is in choosing plays for a season, something I've come to learn. I've been artistic director here for 18 years. And I learned that I can't just choose plays that I personally think are wonderful and exclude all plays that are not just completely the top of my A list. What I've learned is that there are plays that I respect and I think they're good plays, and then there are plays that I have a personal just love and affection for them. But in that, what I try to do is get in that overlap where so that it is reaching our mission, and it's always serving our mission and serving our audience. I can think of one play that we did, for example, which I'm not going to name. And I think it was a well-crafted story in terms of the characters and the situation, and it really connected with our audiences. And that, to me, offset the disappointment of the language, which I felt was very flat and primitive. Mm-hmm. But it exhilarated our audiences. And so there can be a balance. And it reminded me of what you were saying. As long as I go into, I do have to say, and there's certain plays that I have board members, and and audience members saying, "You really ought to do this. This would be perfect." I know I'm never going to do that show in here, but they can't all be. You're not going to go see all plays to review that you just love and adore, and I'm not going to produce all those plays that I personally love and adore. But I do think having that awareness and then giving it that chance and seeing the virtues of that play in terms of more than just my personal taste.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the next question is what you hope to achieve when you write a review, but I think we kind of discussed that as we sort of talked about things. Yes? You think you sort of addressed that?
Well, I mean,
we can go on. What do you
I
hope
don't
to
know.
achieve?
I don't have any ulterior. I
Right.
don't have a motive when I write a review show. I just,
Uh-huh.
for me, it's like, I love this show. I can't wait to
Well,
get out there and
that's
attract
probably what I
people.
mean more is like, what do you hope will happen as a result of whether it's a praiseworthy or not praiseworthy show?
For me, the flip side is always, when you write a positive review and it goes public, you're everybody's best friend. Oh, we love you, Jim. Look at what Jim wrote on
Sure,
Facebook. But when you don't like a show, when you say something, ooh, it can be nasty.
Right.
I mean,
It's
a
a
couple of
weird
weeks ago, I wrote something that some people liked and some people did not, and I heard about it. I got some
Wow.
personal things said about me, so it can
Ooh.
be. You have to have thick skin to be a critic. You have to be able to. You're putting your opinions out there, so you have to. If you're saying things that aren't complimentary about theater, you have to be aware that it can come back to you. So.
Okay.
What is your antidote for that? Because that's hard.
Bourbon.
Don't
You
tell your
know.
parents that.
I've done it for a long time. Just deal with it. But last week was tough.
Really?
It was tough.
Oh.
But you just roll with the punches. You move on to your next piece of writing, and it's just part of the process.
Yeah, I've always had
about
serious
you?
objections.
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
So, in terms of
Yeah.
dealing with, I don't know. I guess you just kind of try to think about it as part of a game. I mean, it's stressful. There's no two ways about it, and it's weird and blah blah blah. But I don't know. It moves pretty fast. You know what I mean? It's
That's
just
true,
like
it
it's like
does.
oh, it sucks for 2 days, and then 2 days later it's blown over, or at least as far as I'm concerned. And then you're after your next show and writing your next review.
Right.
It just kind of it's like a wheel in motion. So, but it is a really horrible experience sometimes.
Oh. Yeah, I don't understand that because I've never thought that was ever in good taste to respond negatively to a review that's bad. It's like, that's...
If I've gotten something factually wrong or whatever, I'll hear from a PR person. That's fine. I want to
Yeah,
correct the facts.
but-
But yeah, like,
No,
my
like,
opinion's
just
my
threaten
opinion.
you or
Right.
You are an idiot.
Yeah.
Why are you writing reviews? You're not Kurt Holman.
Wow. I don't understand the point of that. Okay, so the last question, and this is one I think that these guys are probably really interested in too, is what do you foresee as the future of Atlanta's theater? What do you hope for it? Where would you like it to be? Where do you not want it to be? However you want to answer that question. What's the future look like for us? Like next year, 10 years down the road?
I wish I knew. I'm a little short on the details, but I can take some guesses and stuff. I mean, there's lots of.
Well, this is all speculation.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to
Jump
come
out there. No. We don't have to base anything on.
I don't know. It seems like a lot of interesting young playwrights coming up and stuff that I'm definitely keeping my eyes on. I mean, it seems like there's actually developing not just interesting playwrights in Atlanta, because I'm sure that's always been around, but a kind of an interesting community of playwrights who are supporting each other and supporting each other's work, and they're acting in each other's work and stuff, and I think that's really exciting. I think that's going to develop into something to watch. I think people are also kind of exploring, this might be partly just the economy, kind of exploring the boundaries of theater and stuff, kind of taking theater outside of theater. I don't know if you know that there's a dance company called Glow ATL. They do a lot of site-specific things and stuff. They don't rent a theater. People aren't in seats. They're right there with the dancers walking around. There's a theater company called Saya, and they do really innovative work. They did a production of Moby Dick in this big old warehouse, and it was supposed to be like you're on a whaling ship in this whalehouse. It was really, really inventive and really, really well done. And there's out of hand theater, and they do a lot of really, really inventive things where everybody's wearing like a, what do you call it, iPad or iPod, and you're hearing different things, and you're trying to figure out things about other audience members, and you're interacting with them and hearing kind of instructions and stuff like that. They have this new play, I just read about it today, that I haven't seen yet or anything, but it's instead of renting out a theater and trying to sell tickets, they're taking the show, very small scale show, and doing it in different people's living rooms. So you can ask for the show to come to your living room, and you host guests, and they come and see the show. So.
That sounds like fun. That's very cool. That's very cool. How about you, Jim? What do you foresee?
I'm very excited about the Atlanta theater future. I mean, I've been here for a while now, and there's so many more theater companies than there used to be. So many new playwrights. There's a world premiere. I mean, world premieres used to be, they're still a big deal, but back 5-10 years ago, there was 1 or 2 a year. Now there's 1 or 2 a month. I mean, really, there are.
Yeah.
There's a great talent pool here. I remember when the Alliance used to do big shows. It was all New York people. And it was just frustrating for me. It's like, there's talent here. I mean, I love the fact that, you can go to the Alliance and the cast is largely Atlanta. Or, August Osage County a couple of years ago was all Atlanta, and that was a world-class production. It was better than what I saw on Broadway.
Nice.
So I'm glad that,
It's a great production. Yeah, it really was.
But I'm very excited about the future of Atlanta theater.
Cool. I'm glad you say that because I'm excited. I'm getting my first show at the Alliance. I'm doing the Geller Girls in January, February, and it's an all Atlanta-based creative team.
Great.
Everything. Denise Schaefer, Atlanta playwright. Where Susan's directing, and Susan Booth's directing it, and the whole cast is from here, which I just think is fantastic.
Well, I told Susan, it's like, I saw this on Broadway, and I loved it. The male characters just didn't really feel alive to me.
Huh.
The ones you had here,
Huh.
like, boy, I just felt like every person on this stage was just three-dimensional, and everybody in the show was. So
Nice.
I actually preferred this version to the one I saw in New York.
Wow. Well, ain't nothing wrong with that.
That's very good to hear.
Cool. So how about you, from an artist standpoint? What do you foresee?
I'm optimistic. One reason that I chose to be here and moved back here permanently in '86 is I think that this is a very rich part of the world, the American South. I think the literature and the music and the history of this part of the world is significant. It reminds me of the Irish. There's such a distinctive appeal to the dialect, to the language, and to the writers and the music that have come from that little part of the world. And what's come from the world, from this place, is very rich. And to me, and to be a theater artist here is an opportunity to give dramatic voice to this. We've done a number of adaptations of literature to the stage, Confederacy of Dunces and Walker Percy and Flannery O'Connor, and, but also the new voices coming up, Elizabeth Gregory Wilde, Sherry Shepherd Passad, Thomas Ward, some of the new voices that we've been doing here. And I think, I grew up in Birmingham, and I wonder with hope about what future generations could think about what we artists have done in this part of the world in this coming time. A particular fact about our community that I understood much better when I became an artistic director was that because of the Orly plane crash in the 1960s, it was basically all the major funders of the arts and culture in Atlanta were on a trip to France, and the plane crashed on the return home. And that's why the Woodruff Memorial Arts Center is the Woodruff Memorial Arts Center. It was dedicated to these people that were killed in that crash. And it cannot be underestimated the effect on a community when basically all the leadership in that realm has just been wiped out. And now a lot of those people, they are in a position of arts leadership. But what it's meant has been that there has been this this break in the way of doing things, so that there's a kind of a freshness that I think is just beginning. I moved back here permanently. I was here at first in the late 70s, and then I was in New York and moved back here permanently in 86. And what's happened, we're now the second oldest professional theater company in Atlanta. And what's happening, particularly with the support of the Metropolitan Atlanta Arts Fund that's supporting medium to small size theaters, I think that we could be at a tipping point. And to me, the important thing is, I think a city becomes a great city when it evolves from being just a consumer of art to being a producer of art. So that's why I agree with you that the number of world premieres is very, very exciting. And what I'm hoping is, just like we tend to look for the National Theater, the Royal Shakespeare Company to be the sort of first templates of British playwrights, and what I'm seeing is that we really own this culture, its past, its present, its future, imagining its future in a dramatic form, and I'm hopeful about that.
Right on. Well, cool. Well, I'm so glad that you gentlemen could come and share some time with us today. Thank you so much. Let's give them some love, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful. And I think we learned something, and we appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You guys are going to see the guys now?
We're gonna watch the guys. They're gonna take a dinner break. We got 40